Happy Thanksgiving weekend, everybody. Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. Spent the last couple of days spending time with family. Still got a couple videos up on the channel, but time to catch up on all the latest reports, news, react to all of that for all of you. And that is what we're going to do here on tonight's show, here on Sunday night, before you go enjoy some Sunday night football. Lots of news this morning, some trickling in from yesterday. Since the Bears fired Matt Eberflus on Friday, we're going to cover it all right now. And coming up, we're going to get to the early reports from several big insiders when it comes to the Bears coaching search. But first, I want to talk about kind of the final moments of Matt Eberflus's coaching tenure and really focus on Thursday afternoon in Detroit because I don't think I'd be doing my job if I didn't give my 2 cents on this. A second report on this came out today, but Jaylon Johnson reportedly, quote, went crazy, close quote, on Matt Eberflus as he was starting to give his post-game speech after the Bears' 23-20 loss to the Detroit Lions. Jay Glazer of Fox Sports added today that Johnson used colorful language, close quote, when barking at Matt Eberflus. The first report was from The Athletic via Adam Johns and Diana Rossini. And basically what sounds like what happened is Eberflus was giving his same old, we got to stick together routine. Let's keep doing the right things, which clearly they're not doing the right things. And Jaylon just snapped. And I could only imagine what was said. F you, tired of your BS, yada, yada, yada. Speaking his mind. If you listen to his weekly hits on 670 The Score, which he's scheduled to be on tomorrow, I will be tuned in. And if he drops some bombs, we'll be reacting. His blood's been boiling for weeks now. And I think after Eberflus's latest blunder and for Flus to just go in there and kind of do more of the same, I would imagine Jaylon just had enough. And look, I'm not going to be the morality police of what a player should and should not do. But here's what I know about Jaylon Johnson. One, all he's done is been a part of a losing team, and he's sick of it. He's sick of it. He felt disrespected by the team last year. Ultimately, they got a deal done. I think it's fair to say he hasn't played quite as well this year as he did last year, but he's still a top-tier corner in this league, a leader on this defense, and he's just sick of the bullshit. He really, really is. And I think that's just the thing. Eberflus's messaging wasn't resonating anymore, and I think it's clear. After the Washington game, how it ended, the coaching decisions he made, and how he chose to not own in those mistakes in terms of giving up the free 13 yards, saying the defense was set, even though it clearly wasn't for the Hail Mary. I think he lost the locker room, and especially the defensive guys at that moment. Doesn't mean they didn't try. Doesn't mean, they completely folded. I mean, clearly in Detroit last week, they found some adjustments at halftime and battled, but the hits principle, that was a joke. No one was taking that seriously anymore. And Jaylon Johnson said, enough is enough. I'm going to, if no one else is going to say it, I'm going to. And you wonder if that's what it took for the Bears to make a change because they did. They did something they've never done in their 100-plus year history, which was fire a head coach in the middle of the season. When you have a player go nuclear on the coach in front of everyone after the game, and Jason Leisure, by the way, reported later today that Ryan Poles was boiling hot after the way that game ended. With that factored in with Jaylon, players clearly not listening to Flus anymore, it just had to be done. They had to make a change. So that is what happened. Also in Jason Leisure's report, by the way, Poles was so red hot that he made the decision with Kevin and George McCaskey, hey, let's not meet tonight, Thanksgiving night. Let's meet Sunday morning. And they met for about 3 hours before deciding to fire Eberflus, 7:30. Plus 3 hours is 10:30. Eberflus was scheduled to talk to the media at 9. The mistake there was not pushing back the presser, making an excuse not to do it. Not saying it was handled well, because clearly that's just an embarrassment to have Flus go up there and talk and fire him 2 hours later. But that does explain the timeline of events when it comes to that regard. So I tweeted this out earlier, and then we'll get to the coaching search stuff. I would pay a lot of money even just to get audio of that locker room after the Lions game. Because imagine your sixth straight loss, your fourth loss out of those six in just ridiculous fashion, largely due to coaching errors. And the coach just stands up, guys, we just got to keep sticking together and doing the right things. How about you do the right things, Matt Eberflus? Well, he's not going to get that chance anymore because he is no longer the head coach. All right, I want to get to Adam Schefter's report first on Sunday Countdown this morning. He believes Ben Johnson will have interest in this job. And remember, Albert Breer, month and a half ago, went on ESPN 1000 and said the chatter last offseason was Johnson was interested in the Bears, but that job didn't open up. He ultimately went back to Detroit. Schefter kind of doubling down, saying, yeah, I think he'll be interested. And then he added this, quote, we'll see if they, talking about the Bears, can convince him, close quote. Is that a money play from Johnson's agent? Is he leaking that to Schefter? Who knows? But if Ben Johnson's interested in the Bears, the Bears need to be interested in Ben Johnson. And again, I'm not saying he's a write a blank check guy. You got to get to know him better. You got to do your background. You got to do your research. What's he like in team meetings? Can he command the entire room? Or is he just this really creative play caller that just has to sit in a booth and call plays because Dan Campbell handles the leadership part of the team? I don't know. I do think it's somewhat interesting that when people talk about Aaron Glenn, he's considered this alpha leader type. That's not necessarily what we hear about Ben Johnson. It doesn't mean he's not. Maybe it just means he's a little younger. Maybe it means that, it could be a variety of things. I don't know. But that's clearly something you're going to have to find out, because I do not question his offensive acumen whatsoever. Unless he's just a buffoon in terms of communicating with players and leading a team, he would be very high on my list. But if you interview him and you get Shane Waldron vibes in terms of his communication skills, that would obviously give you pause, because he can't just call the plays. He's got to be the leader of the football team. So I'm very interested in Ben Johnson. Schefter thinks he's interested in the Bears. We'll see where it transpires. I would imagine he's going to be in the mix for not only this job, but several others. Okay, Ian Rapoport, NFL Network, had this note. He said, one, Ryan Poles is expected to stay as GM. Several others have said that as well. I don't think he's going anywhere. But then this is where it got interesting, part of a quote. And, quote, help Kevin Warren run the search for the next head coach. Is that just a phrase that he misworded, like it could have worded better? Or is this Kevin Warren's show? That's kind of what I want to know, because that's a big difference. Now, based on other reports that have been out there, I haven't seen anyone else be like Kevin Warren's running the show. If in fact, it almost seems like this will be more of a Ryan Poles decision, with Kevin Warren being involved and obviously having a voice in those conversations and in the interviews. But I think it would be nice for the public, for the fans, for the media, etc., to be kind of told, like, hey, who's in charge here? Because I'm all about collaboration. I don't think any one person can run a football organization completely on his own. Like, you need people to lean on. But at the end of the day, the people in that building need to know who they're working for and who's in charge. Whoever the next head coach is needs to know, am I reporting to Ryan Poles or am I reporting to Kevin Warren? Now, the answer could be both. Like, hey, I'm working with Ryan Poles side by side. He makes the football decisions, but we all report to Kevin Warren. That's fine. But who's making these decisions? Because Kevin Warren is a business guy. He's not a football guy. Now, I think he knows more about football, being around different organizations, than Ted Phillips. But if Kevin Warren is able to just go rogue on this coaching search, I don't know if I feel great about that. I don't know if I feel great about Ryan Poles picking a coach, considering he settled on Matt Eberflus. I get he was one of the finalists handed to him when he took the job, but there's been reports that he could have expanded that search. So I think that's fair to question. But the reality is, you need to let your football people make those decisions. And Ryan Poles is the biggest football voice in your building. He needs to be the primary voice in choosing the next head coach. Doesn't mean Kevin Warren shouldn't be involved. Doesn't mean that if Ian Cunningham is still here, we'll see if he gets a GM job. Doesn't mean he shouldn't have a say. It just means that I think, if you're going to keep Ryan Poles, you kind of have to let him do his job, right? And that includes hiring the head football coach. Eberflus was a train wreck, But if you're going to keep him, I think you kind of have to ride or die with him as the primary voice to search for the next guy. That brings us to Jonathan Jones' report of CBS Sports. He reported this morning that Poles wants to hire a, quote, leader of men, close quote, type of head coach. Now, what does that mean? Because I've seen a lot of people have takes and opinions and theories on that, some positive, some negative. Does that mean you have to get one of these hardcore football guys? Because I would say, if anything, clearly by the end, Matt Eberflus was not a strong leader, but I would have described Flus as a football guy. Not exactly the greatest in press conferences, but, his whole philosophy, hits principles is, based on like toughness and hustle and all this stuff. Like that kind of is football guy. Now, football guy and leader aren't necessarily exclusive, but I just hope this doesn't mean that they're going to be closed off to a Ben Johnson of the world. We're not going to be interested in the hot offensive coordinator type. Well, who are you interested? Does this just mean you're going to get Mike Vrabel, which I would like and sign up for, but I don't think they should be closed off to anyone. That's kind of my point here. I think the ideal hire is an offensive-minded guy who can command the room of the entire team. Maybe that's Thomas Brown. Maybe that just ends up being the guy who's currently the interim head coach. I think they need to be open-minded to that. Maybe it is Ben Johnson. Maybe they visit with him and they're like, wow, this guy is a grade A leader and communicator, and we know how good his offense is. Maybe that is Mike Vrabel, where it's like, hey, I'm more of a CEO type, but I'm a no-nonsense type of guy, and I'm going to bring in the right coordinators. Maybe it's someone else we're not thinking about. It could be a million different people, but they've got to get this right. That is the bottom line, and they shouldn't close any doors to anyone. I'm out on Cliff Kingsbury, but they should probably talk to the guy again. I mean, that's, interview a bunch of people. Be open-minded. Like, I feel like last year with the coordinator hire search, they interviewed 9 guys. Were they open-minded to all 9 of those? Because I find that hard to believe. It kind of feels like they interviewed Cliff just to find out more about Caleb, which I'm not saying you should do, but and Cliff has flaws, but would I have taken him over Shane Waldron? Absolutely. I mean, that's not even a question. So, in terms of, how it played out, obviously. So, we'll see how it goes. Obviously, it's early. Marcus Freeman's been a name that's been floated out there. I'm going to dive into him a little bit more, probably on a video tomorrow, whether it's in the morning or on our live show tomorrow afternoon. So be sure to join us for that. And listen, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. We're rocking, we're rolling, we're turning the page to the future. Obviously, we got 5 more games to discuss. Thomas Brown gets his opportunity. We'll have a lot of discussion around him as well, as the Chicago Bears are entering a new era of their football team yet again, as this will be the second coaching search in just 3 years for this football team. Hit that subscribe button. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for supporting us throughout this season and throughout the last 4.5, 5 years since we launched this channel. We're just getting started. I still have hope for brighter days ahead. I still believe that if you get the right coach, you've got the right quarterback, you got to get that marriage right. And if you do, even if the organization is somewhat flawed, I think you can overcome some of those things if you get the right coach, and the work on that starts right now if you're Ryan Poles, Kevin Warren, and whoever else is involved. I'm Harrison Graham. Subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys next time.